All right. Sit. Okay. Sit. Oop. Okay. All right.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are.
3, 2, 1. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dan Carlin, and we are on a Sool Radio limited series in which we are going over the Best Picture nominations one by one for the 2022 Academy Awards. With me is librarian, movie fan, and host of the podcast, Did You Do Your Homework? And Love Ya, the links to which can be found in the description of this episode. Once again, Martha Sullivan, how you doing?
Happy to be back.
I'm really hoping people don't pick up that our outfits are the same from the last episode. We want to keep it good chronologically.
Well, now that you've said that, I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, but people were going to notice, and now that I mentioned it, it's okay. Like, it makes it okay because we're being meta about it.
I see. Is that how it works? I don't usually work in video, in a visual format.
I'm still getting used to it, and I'm trying to sit okay. And I used to show up to a lot of, audio only interviews back in the early Sool Radio's days, looking borderline homeless, or I'd just go into the Grubhub conference room. I've been there for 12 hours. I look like shit. I probably smell bad. Just knock it out in 20 minutes.
I'm going to tell you a secret about one of the episodes that you guest starred on. Did You Do Your Homework?
Yes.
It was the episode that we discussed. I don't remember what the overarching topic was. It might have been sound design, but it was the episode that I had to watch The Sopranos for you.
That was showing versus telling, because that episode has quintessential examples of both things.
I recorded that episode on my phone in bed because I forgot that we were supposed to record that night. So
nice.
when I got the Skype call, I had already gone to bed and thought, well, I don't have to get up to do this.
That's amazing.
This is why I have Skype on my phone.
Oh yeah. No, I ducked out of my shift half an hour early at Grubhub, ran into the conference room, and did that episode from there. So, just the things we do for our art, right?
And Pete will never know.
What up, Pete? Hope you're doing well. So, speaking of meta commentary, that was meant to be a segue. The Best Picture nominee we are discussing this go-round is available on Netflix, goes by the name Don't Look Up, and I am stalling because I'm trying to pull my notes up. God damn it, I totally clicked off of it. All right, that's okay, I can figure this out. It is about a low-level scientist trying to save the... You know what? I'm just going to cut... Here, Don't Look Up.
I was going to say, I have the Wikipedia synopsis pulled up, if that would be helpful.
I know, I just had a whole Google Doc prepared, and this is what happens when I try to actually come prepared to things. All right. In Don't Look Up, two low-level astronomers must go on a giant media tour to warn mankind of the approaching comet that will destroy the planet Earth with hilarious results. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep, and is directed by your boy Adam McKay. Where to start? I'm just going to give the floor to you and see what happens.
So I don't love Adam McKay. I really enjoyed The Big Short. I thought that movie was very good, although by the end of it, I don't think that I could have told you any better how the mortgage bubble worked. It was an entertaining movie, and by the end of it I was like, I think I'm supposed to get how this happened. Still don't, but I do understand that banks are bad. I truly hated Vice. I hated everything about it. I thought it was poorly made. I did not enjoy the acting. I did not enjoy the script. Part of that might have been the subject matter. Vice is about Dick Cheney and his rise to power. But I just found that to be a truly unpleasant watching experience. Don't Look Up, I feel, strikes a kind of middle balance between how entertaining and snappy and brisk The Big Short is and how utterly loathsome Vice is. So I gave it a solid 3 stars on Letterboxd. This was the one that in all of the Oscar predictions, like, this movie title was coming up, and the whole time I was like, there's no way. Like, this is, people are talking about it because, like, it's sort of about climate change, although we'll get to that in a minute. But it was supposed to be the, like, woke and relevant movie about how, when faced with obvious and impending disaster, the people of the world will keep looking at their shoes and opt for entertainment over information every single time. Never in a million years would I have put this on my list of Best Picture nominations before the list came out, but I guess more the fool me. I didn't peg it for being a nominee, but now that it is, it kind of makes sense.
I feel like there are enough people attached to that film where you want to keep them happy with a nomination. They're not going to win. Like, it's not going to win. If Best Picture was still like 5 nominations like it was 10 years ago, it wouldn't have made it there. But I think Meryl Streep being there, Leo being there, Jonah Hill, who's like a low-key regular Oscar nominee, is
they
attached.
all are. I mean, Meryl Streep, like, coughs weird and gets an Oscar nomination. Kate Blanchett is an Oscar darling. Going back to number of nominations, I appreciate that the Academy has opened up the Best Picture field to more than 5 movies. However, I almost always feel like you can tell who the serious nominations are by what gets the Best Director nomination. And Adam McKay was not nominated for Best Director. Every once in a while, the Best Director and Best Picture will be split. But typically, if a Best Picture nominee is a serious contender, it will also be nominated for Best Director. But yeah, this one has a psychotic amount of star power in the ensemble. I cannot fathom how much this movie costs to make.
Jesus Christ, yeah, like Timothée Chalamet, Kid Cudi, Ariana Grande. I know I'm missing a bunch of others.
I'm going to do a quick search.
Same.
Which I know is riveting video.
Kate Blanchett. Oh yeah, Kate Blanchett played the reporter. Okay. So, Tyler Perry.
Allegedly, who I really thought didn't come out to make movies for anybody.
He was in Gone Girl as well. And that was the only movie I recall him being in that wasn't a Tyler Perry movie. He played Ben Affleck's attorney.
So allegedly, Don't Look Up cost $110 million to make. $30 million of that was Leonardo DiCaprio's salary, and $25 million was Jennifer Lawrence's salary.
I give credit where it's due. I shit on Jennifer Lawrence for about 10 years, but this is by far her best performance I've seen. Like, go on.
I like Jennifer Lawrence quite a lot. I think she's great in this. I did think she was Rooney Mara for about 10 or 15 minutes. But no, I thought she was great. I don't think I would call this her best role.
I appreciated how subdued she was compared to work she's done that's gotten on my nerves.
Oh yeah, and she's definitely one of the most convincing people in this movie. Like, we'll get to Leonardo DiCaprio in a minute, but just as the kind of fish out of water scientist trying to deal with a political field that she has no understanding of. I thought she played the youth of her grad student really effectively. I thought she played the eventual kind of once she realizes that this is a snowball that's just never going to stop. I thought she hit that nihilism note really, really effectively. When she initially hooks up with Timothée Chalamet, and it's purely just to like, well, we're all going to die, so why not?
Why not?
I thought she sold that very, very well.
Yeah, it really, that movie really does kind of explore the seven stages of grief in a weird way.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that's like the most powerful sequence in that film was, again, spoilers, guys, the end, where it's just inevitable that everybody's going to die. The room is shaking. People are just eating dinner as if, nothing else is going on.
That scene I thought was incredibly effective. I thought it was
good.
very well put together. And it was one of the very few moments that I felt was emotionally earned in the movie. Like, coming right at the bitter end, you get to hang out with the people that you've been watching fight against what is happening the whole time, and being able to feel like these were the people that, if they had been allowed to, could have done something about it. And the fact that they couldn't was not due to their lack of effort or their lack of skill. It was entirely due to the opportunities that were or were not afforded to them. And coming to the end of that futility, I thought was one of the like very well pitched moments. I cried a lot during that scene.
No, I mean, understandably so. My biggest issue with the film, and actually, no, my biggest issue was the length of the film, because there's no reason that needed to be damn near 3 hours.
Correct.
But right below that is just, I felt like it had issues with tone. Like, it couldn't tell if it wanted to be like a full-on satire or like a more subtle dramedy or a drama, or, is it like a political satire or is it like a satire about show business? Because those are two completely different things.
It is being called a satire about climate change, but here is my issue with that. Our danger in this movie is a comet. It is not climate.
Right.
So, like, I'm not quite sure why, unless we're just lumping everything that comes from the sky under the umbrella of weather. I think it's kind of weird to have this movie be in the conversation with climate change. For me, it is much more satirizing the relationship that the American public has with politicians and fame and celebrity and news and information. Like, it's almost a fake news satire more than it is anything else. It is too long. Back in our first episode, I intimated that there would be movies that were being nominated for Best Film Editing that I did not believe belonged in that category.
Sure.
This is one of them. But my biggest problem with this movie is that it doesn't know how the internet works. Or at least it doesn't know how the internet works now. The way that the memes get generated and the kinds of memes that they are, and the way that the news cycle kind of works felt very like 2008 to me rather than 2022. It
did feel like a bunch of 50-somethings trying to write about those damn kids and their internets.
Yes.
And
the one exception to that being the internet absolutely would have been thirsty for Leonardo DiCaprio's schlubby scientist.
Oh yeah, no, that was probably the idea of an intern that was friends with one of the writers or something. But it's very clear when that's the case. Like, Saturday Night Live is routinely guilty of that. Like, I happened to watch an episode a couple weeks ago, and they still seem to be under the impression that memes are like the top and bottom impact font.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's little details like that people pick up on, and it throws them off.
Well, and I watch a lot of movies, both good and bad, for both of my other shows. And you can really tell the difference between something that is aimed at millennials, that was written by boomers, Gen Xers, or other millennials. Like,
sure,
all three of those creator groups, when they are pitching to you and I, take very different tactics.
Yeah.
Adam McKay, I believe, is a Gen Xer. He was born in 1968. And I have always found that his brand of humor has a little bit of hostility in it. Like, there is, I mean, this movie is very openly mocking the kind of Instagram and Twitter celebrity culture. And the way, like, I don't think it feels very kindly towards the generation below us. Like, with the way that Ariana Grande's pop star is kind of positioned, and how, like, her relationship frequently overwrites whatever the important thing in the room is.
Right.
So yeah, I don't always love it when creators feel like they're being mean to their audience, particularly when it's wrapped up in something that is like, this is capital I important. So if you don't like it, then that means that you don't agree with me. And I'm like, no, I just don't like it because it's not good.
It doesn't matter the medium. You don't want to watch something, listen to something, whatever, feeling like you're being talked down to.
Yes. And I have that issue with the tone of McKay's stuff a lot, particularly his later work. This is not such a problem. You and I, before we started recording, were looking at his IMDb page, and I don't think this is as much of a problem in his earlier stuff. But I think that as he has gotten more prominent and has been allowed more latitude in his projects, his stuff definitely has been taking on a tone of, I'm smarter than you. Let me explain to you why what I'm doing is very smart.
Yeah, it's a little... Yeah, there comes a point where it's like, dude, yeah, you're absolutely right about what you're saying. You're not saying anything incorrect, but also, like, fuck you for the way you're saying it to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that comes off of years of growing up the way that I have. So I don't know if that's a me problem or, like, specific to the whole audience. I had a whole point after that. You brought up the comet representing climate change, and maybe it should have just been something more deliberate. I genuinely believe that Adam McKay expected us to accept the comet as climate change the way we kind of accepted Man Bear Pig as climate change. That I have no evidence backing that theory up, but I think that's what happened.
I mean, maybe. I just feel, and I'm not even sure that it's Adam McKay who's responsible for sticking the climate change label on here, or if it's just other people's reading of the films or other people's reading of the film.
Sure.
I kind of feel like throwing climate change into the discussion of what this movie is talking about is sort of a pointless, like, it's not a distraction. It's just like, we don't need to load this movie up with any more buzzwords. Oh, never mind. So in a New York Times article about it, Kara Buckley, writer for the New York Times, writes, "What remains to be seen is whether the film fulfills a primary aim of its director, Adam McKay, who wants it to be, in his words, a kick in the pants that prompts urgent action on climate change. I'm under no illusions that one film will be the cure to the climate crisis, Mr. McKay wrote in an email to the Times, but if it inspires conversation, critical thinking, and makes people less tolerant of inaction from their leaders, then I'd say we accomplished our goal. And I feel like, say that same quote, but take out climate crisis. This movie is not about climate crisis. It's about our leaders failing to act on a very imminent emergency rather than the failure to act on a very slow burn emergency that has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
And I don't know that those are the same. I don't know that those are the same kind of political neglect. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like he's trying to capitalize too much on just like what it is okay to be kind of publicly political about as somebody in Hollywood. Like, sure, it's about climate crisis.
I didn't like explicitly read it as the climate crisis. Obviously it came to mind, but it's like you said, I read it more as like the disregard of humanity and like the long-term fate of the planet in favor of like short-sighted self-interest,
which I guess is kind of where the climate crisis writ large is coming from. I feel like if he wanted to make a climate change parable, then he wouldn't have used a comet.
True. But yeah, I saw it as more of a blanket statement about people, like politicians being selfish more than like the planet is dying for this particular reason.
I agree. I would like to talk very briefly, or perhaps extensively, about the actor that I wanted to get nominated for this movie. Mark Rylance as the Jeff Bezos type Peter Isherwell. I thought was one of the best parts of this movie. I was fully ready at some point in the movie for him to reveal that his very like sort of crowd shy, withdrawn, like neurotic character. I was fully ready at some point during the movie for him to reveal that is just an act that he puts on. We don't. He is just playing this like withdrawn, neurotic, like pseudo tech genius. He's Jeff Bezos, he's Elon Musk. He's the guy who's like, I have so much money, I'm going to, launch space satellites that I don't have the engineering knowledge to make sure actually work. But because I, bought and paid for the presidential campaign, I get to do that.
Oh, most definitely. There were a lot of elements that were pulled from like, say things that people said, or like people in the news, or multiple people in the news combined. I definitely read Jonah Hill basically wanting to sleep with his mom, played by Meryl Streep, as like the Trump and Ivanka thing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Meryl Streep is definitely playing like female version of Trump. I also thought she was great. I feel like she showed up hilarious. I feel like she showed up to set for like 3 days and was like, all right, I'm done.
Oh, she had more fun on that set than she has in decades, and you could tell. Mm-hmm. Like she just came there and had a fucking blast. How would you improve this film aside from the length? Because I feel like there are good intentions there.
I would cut 20 minutes immediately. Okay. I would hire writers that are between the ages of 20 and 25 to do punch-ups on all of the internet stuff.
Right.
I would give the biggest change that I would make is I would swap Melanie Lynskey and Leonardo DiCaprio. I would make Melanie Lynskey the scientist and Leonardo DiCaprio her devoted house husband.
Well, that would be great.
I think a lot of things become a little bit sharper and a little bit smarter if you have those two roles reversed. I also am just a huge fan of Melanie Lynskey, and I'm pleased to see that she is starting to be in more stuff. As a viewer, I find that I am increasingly less interested in stories about mediocre white men that are rocketed to some kind of degree of prominence.
Sure.
So I'm just always going to be a little bit less interested in this role if it's played by Leo DiCaprio than if it is played by Melanie Lynskey. I think you could also swap Leonardo DiCaprio for Cate Blanchett and make Leo the hot, charismatic news anchor and Cate Blanchett the like fish out of water scientist. I think that would have been a clever kind of switcheroo. Yeah, I agree. I think there are good intentions to this movie. I just think that the script needed a little bit more work, and I think that the editing could have been a little bit sharper with with a tighter hand on the editing. I
think every aspect of that movie, if not most of them, could have used tightening. The editing, the writing, the pacing, the tone. I felt like I was watching like three different. Like, you remember when Stanley Kubrick died halfway through making AI, and then Steven Spielberg kind of jumped in and directed the back half of it, and you could tell which parts were directed by who? That's what this movie kind of felt like.
Yeah, it did feel like every single character was being written by a different person.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. The one thing I do kind of appreciate in the writing, and what you mentioned about Leo's character, is that when he has his affair with Cate Blanchett, and it's just like it's there, and it kind of like in a more conventional film, like the affair would have been like a more prominent part of the story, and it would lead to this whole drama with his wife. But he like finally faces her again, and there's that awkward 3 seconds, and she was like, "It's cool, I fucked this dude," and they were like, "Oh, okay." Yes. And that was just the end of it.
Like, well, the world is ending, let's have dinner.
It's like, yeah, all right, cool, good talk.
Yeah, again, that last scene, just the last sequence from when he shows up with the groceries to sitting down arguing about store-bought versus homemade pie. Like, honestly, if that had been the short film.
Oh yeah, if the whole film had been like as well done as that scene, it would be a completely different film and would actually deserve the nomination.
Yeah.
Well, shit. Martha, is there anything else you want to add?
I was just looking through the nominations that it did get. It got Best Original Score. I remember absolutely nothing about the score, so okay, sure.
I know the song. I remember the song Ariana Grande and Kid Cudi do together in that,
which
was
is
supposed to be the like benefit concert scene.
And that song is a bop. I enjoyed that a lot.
I do like the fact that the "getting your head out of your ass" line was improvised by Ariana Grande.
I would have enjoyed seeing this one in the makeup and hairstyling category because of just how pitch perfect, like everybody's look is so tailor-made for the kind of character send-up that they are. That was one of the places where I thought, oh, you're being very clever with these visual cues.
It did feel very lived in, the costume designs and the character designs.
Otherwise, Best Original Screenplay, no, sorry.
I wouldn't be mad at it, but I don't necessarily think that's what should win.
And yeah, for me, it's the big odd one out in this Best Picture field. Like, compared to, and I, as of recording this episode, I have not seen all of the Best Picture nominees, but based on what I have seen, like this ain't it.
This ain't the one.
No.
Polly, do you have anything you want to add?
Ears. You would like to add ears.
Oh, what's up, bud? Can I help you? He's like a Fun Dip level of loud when he doesn't think people are watching him. Right, you little loudmouth. Well, Martha, thank you as always. I look forward to exploring the rest of the nominees with you. Where can we find you?
Sure. You can find the other two podcasts that I co-host, Did You Do Your Homework? And Love Ya. And I am just now really realizing that when we filmed our first episode, I did not tell anybody what either of those actually are about. So I'm going to do that real quick here.
What's it about? I listen to it sometimes, so I just assumed everyone knew what it was about.
Yes, you and our 12 other listeners. Did You Do Your Homework is a pop culture podcast connecting academic ideas to popular media. My co-host Pete and I will bring a couple of pieces of media on a theme together to dissect the theme in the context of the pieces of media that we've experienced. Frequently, it ends up being an excuse for me to get Pete to watch a movie that I really want to talk about. He lets me control that conversation way too often. I get spoiled. And on Love Ya, Pete's wife Marin and I alternate between talking about a teen movie or an adult rom-com and just picking them apart and talking about how effective they are at reflecting like love and connection and chemistry and dating and all of that kind of messy human stuff that gets so frequently idealized in those kinds of movies.
Sure.
Those shows update on the same feed on alternating Fridays, which you can find everywhere under Did You Do Your Homework on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere that aggregates podcasts. You can follow me on social media everywhere at Magical Martha, including my newsletter that I publish whenever I feel like it, which you can find at tinyletter.com/Magical Martha. The last issue that I wrote was about all of the holiday movies that I watched in the month of December. And my next issue will probably be about all of the feelings that I have about the Academy Awards.
There you go.
It does not update very frequently because I do not get paid to write it.
Yeah, money is a huge motivator for that. That's why I update my shit so infrequently. But Martha, always a pleasure. See you next time, folks.
This was a lot of fun. I cannot wait to continue on our journey.